Guys.
Hi.
New home. Here's the problem with this place, though. I feel like I'm doing a Gillette commercial. Like, anything less would be uncivilized.
The best a man can get, baby.
Hello, welcome to the Freemasons Podcast with your hosts, Right Worship Brother George and Marjorie.
Brother Joe.
Worshipful Brother Ken. Don't you normally go second?
This way.
No, you go second. You always go second.
I think what we should
Different
do is...
seating arrangements.
I think what we need to do, though, is... I think we need to, like, change seating. Like, every time we come up here to record, we'll just pull, like, a chair number, like 1, 2, or 3. You pull a number out of a hat.
Oh, yeah, make it even more confusing.
Yes, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Because no one will know what to do.
Great
I feel like
idea.
I should be, like, laying down for therapy or something. So tell me about your father.
I mean,
I've got an undergrad degree in psychology. We can make this shit happen.
That's a skit right there.
George is the psychiatrist?
Tell me about your mother.
Why are you so messed up?
Oh, God. The doctor is in.
Parents.
What are the traumatic effects of growing up as a ginger? Did you get bullied?
Anyway, all right, so this episode, we're doing an alternative universe. We're going to come out with a bang. These are typically a lot of fun. Everybody seems to enjoy the alternate universe ones.
I do, too.
So we're gonna run with this one. And this is something I was watching. What the hell was I watching the other day about the Knights Templar? I think it was Kingdom of Heaven or something that just happened to pop into my YouTube feed, and it was a clip of it. And I'm like, oh, I gotta rewatch that again. So, and I just thought about it. Like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if
Nightfall's pretty good, too, that show.
Nightfall,
Yeah.
I finished. Actually, I stopped it for a while. I stopped watching. And I was like, eh. And then I went back to it and finished it up. I'm like, I had one episode left. I could have just finished it.
There were only 2 seasons of that.
There were only 2 seasons. And then they, like, unceremoniously just ended it. I mean, it's from, 2019? So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, Gerard kills freaking Philip, and then literally, roll credits. I'm like,
a lot of shows got just kind of, like... killed off immediately. I think it was like COVID and all that other kind of stuff. There were like strikes and everything, but there were a few shows that like met in untimely end in like the 2019 time frame. Right. It's sad because that was a great show.
That was a great show.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Other thing I like was he was banging the queen. I've never.
Yeah, you got to throw some like illicit romance in there. People won't watch it, you know.
I get it.
Games of Thrones. At least they were like cousins or something.
Yeah.
Brother and sister, like in that.
Yep.
We're gonna do we have a Apple We're gonna Apple review, excuse me, and we're gonna read it off.
People still review us even though we haven't recorded in like a month and a half or so.
Believe it or not.
Right,
beautiful.
I get so many messages like, I just listened to episode 32.
Yeah.
I'm like, what was that one about?
Not exactly sure where I laid off here, but
laid off.
I think this was the last one, but I could be wrong. If I missed you, call me out, yell at me. Amazing show, 5-star review from BTKIRBO. Bitcrow? What's up? I'm from Piedmont Lodge, 152 in Virginia. Yeah, we've done this one before, that's all right. Discovered the show a few weeks back, and I've been listening almost every day. Awesome show and very interesting topics. I'm currently an EA and will soon be an FC, so I'm learning the history of the fraternity with your assistance.
Awesome.
This one was Mongo. Mongo 46. Awesome show. Mongo. Isn't Mongo from Fear and Loathing?
There's a Mongo in Blazing Saddles. There's Mongo McMichael from the 85 Bears and the 4 Horsemen later on.
Yeah, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was not Mongo. It was... oh, now I'm blanking on it. Yeah, his sidekick, right?
Yeah, right.
No, it was something else. It was like a Sesame Street name, I seem to remember. Like Grover or something like that.
Say Elmo.
It'll come to me later. It'll come to me later.
Awesome show, 5-star review. Came to this podcast looking for information about Freemasonry. What I found was a funny, laid-back, informative podcast with guys just like me. In just a few episodes, all my questions were answered. The fun, laughter, and brotherhood that these men share while explaining Freemasonry and issues surrounding the craft make this fun and entertaining podcast. Thank you to the Freemasons Podcast. My petition has been submitted. Hey.
Oh, we love to hear that.
Good luck.
It's great.
Fun and informative. Arbor Guy 315. Joined the craft a year ago and started listening to the podcast. Find it fun and entertaining and packed with information. Keep up the good work, brothers. Brother Rick Konosayoni Conoscione. We're gonna go with that. 950.
Thanks, brother Rick.
TG within the square and compass is Reek Robinson. So it's Tariq Robinson, I'm assuming. But
Got
he
it.
put the G and freaking awesome. Hello to all of the Freemasons podcast. I just want to say, Capitals, thank you for the great and entertaining and knowledge you've guys put out. As of December 29th, 2013, I've been an MM for a year and just elected as senior warden. Nobody patries.
That sounds like a rather old review.
No, this was
he was
January
just
2nd.
Okay. Oh, all right.
I've gathered many topics for lectures and ideas to better the community work we do here in our area in North Carolina. Much love to you all. I look forward to meeting all you brothers one day. To Brother George, Oorah, and Semper Fi. Semper Fi.
Oh.
Also, any advice for a senior warden with a little time in masonry?
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Plan.
Everything that's going on. Be ready
But he's
to
saying
step up
with-
at any moment.
Oh, with little time. I thought he meant...
Yeah.
Okay.
Plan your master's year like yesterday.
Yeah, plan your master's year.
Actually, one of the big things you could do is start talking to the other senior wardens in the district so that you can coordinate your schedules for next year and support each other rather than having overlapping events and things. So you can all attend each other's and make them bigger. So.
And when you become master, your coronation speech should be, "It's not the lash they fear, it's my divine power."
Coronation. When you
When
were installed as master, you thought you were being coronated. Wow, you are full of yourself.
surprised by that?
No, not at all.
What you talking about?
It's not the lash they fear.
He thinks he's Xerxes.
Yeah, he
The
thinks
funny
he's
thing is, like,
Persian
oh,
king,
Xerxes.
God king, or something.
Anyway, what do you say? We jump right into this. So
Yeah.
we got to first establish where we're going to start. For brief history of the Templars, they were started in 1114 by Hugh de Payan, who was the founding Grand Master. 4 knights. They were in Jerusalem. They went quiet for 8 to 9 years. You didn't hear much about them. Then they just up and left, went back to Europe, and had instant power, money, fame, notoriety, like that. So it's believed that they found something under the Temple Mount. What it is, who the hell knows? They stayed there. They created commanderies all over Europe and the Middle East. Eventually, Saladin took over Jerusalem, then chased them out of Acre, and they came back to Europe with really nothing to do. They were a warrior monk society, but I think I'm a huge history buff of the Knights Templar. I think they had 20,000 knights at arms, which means the Knights Templar were just cavalry.
Yeah.
They did have Templar sergeants and they had confrere knights, which are basically like your reservists today. They weren't full Knights Templar, they were reservists. So they had different, they were also bankers, they were also farmers,
But that's a hell of an army. So that's just like
20,000 back in those days?
Yeah.
It's a substantial amount.
Yep.
We know that October 13th, Friday the 13th, 1307, King Philip, who for all intents and purposes was a piece of shit and owed a lot, he was after the money, he put him down.
Gambling debts.
Yeah, probably.
Do something.
Or whoring.
Lines, I gotta pay.
Whoring, it's hewers.
But he was after their treasure. On top of that, I mean, I can kind of see it from his point of view that
Power too, right? Like, you don't want any group that's more powerful than you roaming around.
well, not only that, I mean, they were based out of France. That was like their main. They had commanderies all over France. They weren't paying him taxes. They're living on his land, and when he would be like, "Hey, where are you going?" They're back, "Fuck you!" Like, they just do whatever they wanted to do. You know what I mean? Because they answered to the Pope, not to the king.
Yep.
So I'm sure it irritated him, I guess you could say, a little bit. But ultimately, he was going to put him down. 1307, Friday the 13th, he went for it. We do know that this solely happened and started in France. He rounded up all the knights. Well, not all of them. Let's be clear here. He got Jacques de Molay and a couple top guys.
Yeah,
And
the figureheads,
kind
the
of
ones that
got the lower knights, the ones that weren't really. But believe it or not, the majority of them got away.
Yep.
There's a story of a Templar fleet that was called their quote unquote treasure fleet that was at Marseille, I think it was, not Marseille.
Might have been
Marseille. But
yeah,
anyway, the Templar fleet, when the French showed up to come get it, poof, they were gone. They were nowhere to be found.
And there's all kinds of conspiracy theories around where they went with that fleet, where they ended up, Oak Island.
Where's the alternate universe going to go?
Yeah, okay.
Well,
dig
if
it.
you look at the Jolly Roger flag,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's harkens back to the skull and crossbones of the Knights Templar.
Yep.
To use the
Yeah.
symbol.
That was a Templar symbol.
And there's actually Brother Scott Walter. He did a whole documentary about a pirate wreck that they found effigies of Jesus and things that Knights Templar had. So it is believed that they dropped the cross, picked up the Jolly Roger, and they became pirates.
Quick little sidebar.
Cool
He's
story.
working on a project with Brother Timothy Hogan, who was also on the show.
Really?
And it might be, we might have to reach out to them, see if we can get
Yeah.
them
Yep.
back on.
We'll get absolutely.
But here, I say we pick this up so it's the evening of February 13th, 1307.
All right.
Jacques de Molay was executed. However, the rest of the coup failed.
Well, Jacques de Molay was executed not until 1314, so it was years later. He was in imprisonment.
was
Now,
in captivity,
before we
yeah.
get into this, I also just want to say that there are many reports that the Templars knew it was coming. So we got three options here. Right? I would say we're going to go October 13th, right? That's going to be our starting point. One of three things need to happen. We could either say the Templars were like, fuck this douche, we're going to go to the kingdom and we're going to rip him out of his freaking bedchambers, we're going to lop his head off. Two, they, the Pope, we can just say, I mean, for the lack of a word, the Pope at the time was a puppet of King Philip.
Yeah.
The Pope had died before him had died under mysterious circumstances, and Philip refused to allow, I think it was Pope Innocent, I think that's what his title was. They refused to let him rule in Rome. He had to do it from Paris. So the second scenario would be the Pope is like, nah, fuck you. We ain't getting rid of these guys. They didn't do anything. They're my army. You can't touch them.
Yeah.
So he found his balls in a sense. Or three, the third scenario, and we'll let you guys can choose which one you think would be the most plausible, and then we'll go from there. The third one is they knew it was coming, and even Jacques de Molay was like, yeah, nah, I'm not going to placate this asshole. We're all going to hightail it and disappear. What do you guys think would be the most plausible?
The most likely?
I'm thinking it's one of those things where it's almost like a failed assassination attempt that garners some sympathy of the public, and there's almost in essence a civil war type resurgence against the Pope and the King.
Yeah.
It's almost like a revolution.
That seems
And
likely.
That's how I'm thinking. It's like, you know,
Popular
that's what
opinion
Scotland
of the
did.
order
gathered
changes.
together.
Yeah.
It's kind of what happened with Robert the Bruce.
Because that's what was happening in that time. It happened with
When you beat the shit out of your brother-in-law in a church, I mean,
same thing Cromwell did. Like, there's that whole history at that time period of, yeah, we don't like the king. We're just going to revolt and have a revolution against it. I think that's, especially when you have an army of 20,000.
well, that's 20,000 spread across all of Europe.
Yeah,
so give or take at least a couple hundred in.
But then you bring them in.
Right.
You bring them in. You gather together a mighty army.
I don't think going after Philip would be plausible. That would be like.
Well, not
That would be
necessarily
like
going.
the Teamsters going and raiding the White House and ripping the president out. Like it's
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. You can still have a. Yeah, you can still have a revolt without pulling the king out of his bedchambers. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
Popular opinion. You just shift popular opinion.
I mean, think
And
of
then he's got
the
a
number
kowtow.
that we had in the colonies at the time, spread out amongst the colonies when the Revolutionary War started. Was it
That's true.
20,000? Was it 30? I don't
right.
know a number, but
I think it was 15% of the population is what fought against
the
the
13
British.
colonies are probably the size of Europe.
Yeah.
When you put it together, you gather them all together, like-minded people, lead a revolution against the authority of the king.
Right. No, don't forget there were a lot of during the American Revolution. There was a lot of Tories too, people who were loyal to the crown, who dimed out the Patriots. So you're going to get pretty much similar.
Same situation, I think. Yeah.
But what if they had won? See, that's where my mind
Yep.
goes.
That's where I'm going to go with this. So I don't think that they would go after. I don't think they would go after King Philip because realistically, if by killing a king, you would turn the population against
Yeah,
you
exactly.
within
Yep.
seconds. They would be like, no, these guys are fucking nuts. The hell with this. The Pope, I don't think he's gonna cowboy up and fight against Philip because not for nothing, he was a captive for all intents and purposes, and the Pope before him died under circumstances that were mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, so the writing was on the wall. He wasn't
he might be
rock
next.
the boat.
The third scenario, I think, would be the most plausible, where they just grab their treasure, grab everybody they got, and just leave. They just take off. Now, at this time, they still held the island of Cyprus. My belief is that they just pull everything out of Europe, not out of Europe, because France was really the only one who went after the Templars initially. Spain told them to scratch ass. Portugal told them to scratch ass. England, it took a little bit of time. In the Holy Roman Empire, there's a story about them showing up for their trial in full battle array, and they were like, innocent.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that if they would have just vacated France, they could have taken their power base, solidified it on, let's say, Cyprus. And that, I mean, you would have had a situation where Cyprus was the nation state of the Knights Templar, which would further, I think, they would have bolstered their numbers if they did that. They would have filled up Cyprus full of a potentially a even more substantial army, and they would have went back after the Middle East. I think they would have went right back at Acre, eventually making a play for Jerusalem. That's my personal feeling on it.
So this is something we could almost do multiple episodes on, because there's so many different scenarios.
Absolutely.
And we could even throw a poll out there to see which one. Because the one that keep going in my mind is, okay, so in the real world, the king and the pope were in cahoots with each other. The pope was just a figurehead, allegedly. But if we're going total alternate universe, bizarro world thing, what if the pope wasn't that just figurehead or just a puppet of the king? What if he had these backroom dealings? Because who wants more power than the king? The church.
Of course,
Yeah.
hands down.
So what if he pulled a little rope-a-dope on Philip,
All right.
and then solidified the Knights Templar as the army of the church?
Under his leadership.
That's
With the backing of the Holy Roman Empire.
You're going to have a legitimate power struggle between two somewhat equal entities. It's going to be the monarchy and the church.
Yeah.
But the church's army is a little bit more badass than
Yeah, a little
the
bit.
French army. No offense to any French military folks out there. But imagine that power struggle, and then imagine church wins, and then they go to take back the Holy Land.
Yeah.
And then they go after Saladin, and they go after the Middle East to reclaim the Holy Land.
I could plausibly see that happening, where the Pope is like, yeah, pull all of your forces pull every Knights Templar out of France, bring them down. They form a camp in Italy,
expand.
and then go back at them in a full battle array.
Within the walls of the Vatican, the Vatican's their fortress.
Yeah.
And they're probably recruiting tons more soldiers during this time because if public opinion swings in their favor.
But don't forget, I mean,
Plus,
they
everybody
had
hates the French, so.
yeah.
At that
And,
time, yeah.
Spain
At that
hated
time.
France.
Right?
Portugal hated Spain. But
England
the Knights
hated
Templar
France.
were all there. They just changed their names in later days. They didn't actually get persecuted because all the Templar castles in Portugal are still there.
Yeah.
And then Portugal was founded by the Knights Templar. Portugal literally means Port of the Grail.
Yeah.
Portugal.
But that
Was their
that could unite all those. That the Pope could unite all those different Catholic countries that may have issues. I guess,
Right.
especially against the first common enemy, the French, and they'll just surrender and fall in line like they always do. And then you have all of Europe going after the Middle East.
Hell yeah, that would have been. That would have been. That's very plausible. And you know what I always found funny? The Knights Templar answered to the Pope, right? Why didn't the Pope, if he really was, let's say, captive? That's kind of the running stories, that he was the puppet. He was set up by the French king and everything. But he had this massive Knights, 20,000 men is nothing to wag a tail at. You know, that's a substantial. Why didn't he tip them off hey guys, I'm being held here.
Because
Come get me.
I think he was. I think he was straight up Philip's man. I don't think he was a captive. I think he was put in place a straight up puppet. Yeah.
Pope more than anything, and because
Right.
of Philip, he became Pope. And he's like, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to get you Pope, but
Yep.
here's what I need in return. And he cut a deal.
Yeah.
Cut a deal and sold out his army.
That's shitty.
And he wasn't as power hungry as Philip. So,
Right.
but yeah, he could have commanded those soldiers at any time.
You're right, Joe. Though we could do multiple episodes because
maybe
there's
we
stories
should
of them going to
put a pin in
Scotland.
it and-
There's mythology about them fighting at the Battle of Bannockburn.
And there's a huge time period here. So it's like after they take back the Holy Land, then what happens, right? And you could go all the way up to modern times where you've got your interesting little AI portrait there.
I don't think
of a Knight Templar with an AR-15.
What if there was never a separation of church and state, and the Knights Templar were...
There might not have been if this had come to pass.
That's
they would have been the
mind
shock
goes.
troops, realistically.
They could also, go a very dark...
Yeah.
Where
I mean,
where Catholicism is the world religion and none shall stand against it.
I mean, realistically, that's a damn, like, if you really think about it, I mean, the Knights Templar were the shock troops. They were the battering ram of any military force. They, especially in the Crusades, they were the heavy cavalry that I mean, the Knights Templar charge was world renowned. The fucking guys rode in on what's the not a Clydesdale? What's the second largest horse? They were massive horses.
Some kind of draft horse. I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name.
They were massive horses, so when they would hit...
Yeah, that's intimidating.
I mean, they were just... I think, to my knowledge, I think they also... they were the ones who first started using the stirrups for horses, too. Before that, I don't think cavalry used the stirrups.
No, I think it was very easy to get knocked off your horse.
Right. Yeah. So they started using the stirrups so that they could actually gain more speed and lean into an attack.
Yeah, swing the sword without falling off the horse.
They would just scatter armies. They'd smash right through the front lines, and that would be the end of it. Like, there was no...
You have I don't even know how much those horses weigh. 800 pounds? 900 pounds? Those
probably.
Horses?
Yep.
That's your base.
Yeah.
So you're
They're like tanks.
To that as your base.
I mean,
that horse isn't moving.
And cavalry charges, they basically, they were the beginning and the end. They were the original blitzkrieg. They would hit a lined up, I mean, again, we're talking about medieval warfare, where they lined up in lines, and you just, it was up close and personal. It was just lines smashing into one another. But when you get, how much, couple tons, right? Horses weigh?
I don't think they weigh a couple tons.
A ton or so, right? I don't know how much they weigh.
A big horse like that is probably 900 pounds, something like that.
I could recall seeing
maybe as heavy as a car.
And seeing some of those Clydesdales, and I want to say somewhere about 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, so like a small car.
Yeah. Now imagine this thing running balls out right at you. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm getting out the way. It's like getting hit by a bus.
Yeah.
You know,
a dude with a big ass sword. So if the horse doesn't get you,
if you take now, mind you, not all Knights Templar were on horseback. That was their primary battle force. The second ones were the Templar sergeants. They were basically spearmen. I mean, just as deadly, but they were spearmen. Now you move that to more modern times. I guess my thing is this. Again, my scenario or my alternate universe would be that they consolidated somewhere. Scotland, Cyprus, Rhodes, Malta,
Portugal,
Nova Scotia. I mean, there's stories of them. Scott Walter did a whole thing, the Kensington Runestone, where you believe that the Templars made their way to the New World.
There was a land claim.
There was a land claim.
Just a real quick to interject.
Yep.
Average Clydesdale is between 1,600 and 1,800 pounds.
Good God.
That's
a big horse.
About 2,200 pounds. So they're over a
Holy, wow.
And again, the next smallest horse was with because the Clydesdales, I think, are American. No. What?
They probably didn't exist at that time. They were.
It was a Belgian horse, as a matter of fact. I can't remember the freaking name of them though. But they're not a Clydesdale. They were the next one down because there was. I remember a documentary. They said they used to ride the second largest horse.
Still though, it's like a deuce and a half coming at you.
Yeah, it's like
on an ancient battlefield when you're on foot. Yeah, it's not good.
Besides car with like blades.
Yeah.
So my scenario, they went somewhere. I picked Cyprus because they own the whole island of Cyprus. Now, granted, years later, they ended up selling Cyprus because the people of Cyprus hated the Knights Templar. They hated them. Most of the people who lived on Cyprus were of Orthodox Christianity. Knights Templar were Catholicism. They're Roman Catholic. So there was a schism in religion. They hated the Knights Templar. Again, it's a military order, basically running a what the hell's it called when
a nation state,
like a nation state or a military controlled thing. What's it called? Martial law. They were basically had the island under martial law.
Yeah, but there were Templar strongholds all over Europe at that time, right? If they weren't oppressed to the level that they actually were in history, they would have all of those.
I'm just thinking, like,
bases of operation.
Where would
at
be their
disposal.
main base, though? I'm thinking like you need to consolidate your
Portugal
forces.
was pretty friendly to them.
Portugal
would
was
have
right
been
in
right,
the center because
And they had resources.
and you
So
had the easy access to the
To the med.
ocean, to
Yep.
fleet.
now,
And that would at the very least be like their naval.
but now here's my thing, though, because we had said before that there would still be not a separation of church and state. I disagree, because I think if the Templars found out that the Pope actually was in on this, they might go complete fuck you to the Catholic Church and just become a war nation like Sparta. They sometimes helped Athens, but most of the time they fought Athens. But they were a nation state. Sparta was just its own thing, and they sometimes played nice in the sandbox. Sometimes they were like, we're going to burn your city to the ground because we can, and eat shit. There's nothing you can do about it.
Or they say the puppet pope that's based in Paris is a fraud, and they have the Vatican install a real pope.
Yeah.
Or you take it over militarily. You storm
Or
Rome and
or
take it.
that. I mean, I
That's
don't
always
think
a possibility. I mean, if you called to all ends of the friggin' earth for your boys, you're 20,000 strong, and that's just knights on horse. We're not talking about the Templar sergeants, the Confrere knights, scribes, squires. All the other squires fought too.
Right.
They just weren't the full-fledged, you know what I mean? You could bolster a pretty decent size army. I mean, shit, Barbarossa, before he drowned in the freaking bathtub or wherever the hell he drowned, he was a Holy Roman Empire.
did he
was-
drown in the bathtub? Is that the...
No, he drowned in a river. It's surmised that he died of he had a stroke and died in the water, crossing a river. But he raised 100,000 men to go before he died. That was before Richard the Lionheart took over the rest of the crusade. But Barbarossa was a powerful man. He had 100,000 people ready to march. I mean, again, after he died, most people lost faith and left, but you got 100,000 men on its way.
I don't remember, but I don't think Rome was like complicit with the Pope being set up in France. Like, I don't think the rest of the Vatican was cool with that.
So you think that the Vatican would have been like, yeah, fuck this guy?
Yeah, like if they, if the Templar come back and they march on Rome and they're like, hey, we're not following this guy, and they're like, hey, yeah, we really don't want to follow him either.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Let's call him a pretender and
Yeah, I mean, he could
Put a
be
real
proposed,
pope in, yeah.
Sure, they just elect a new pope.
Yep.
I
or just say
think
no
at some
confidence. or
point,
he's
though,
just
the
not
Templars go
valid.
back at France. They find it. They mash the fuck out of them. But
they would just surrender.
Yeah.
fair enough.
Just surrender.
I think they go back at France. I think they also make another play for because I mean the whole way that Philip got Jacques de Molay to go to Paris was he told him he wanted to start another crusade. That's how he coaxed him into coming and arresting him. Was he said, "Yeah, we want to start another crusade. We want you guys in. Come meet us for this meeting in Paris," and that's how we rounded him up. But I mean, the Templars were still hell bent on getting back to the Middle East, so I don't think it's beyond reality that they would go back there. Now, holding on to it, different story.
Yeah.
I mean, Saladin was on his downfall at this point after the Third Crusade. He died 6 months after what's his name, Richard the Lionheart had left, who also died fighting his Prince John. I can't see anybody other than, what's his name, Jerry Lewis, the comedian. He was in Robin Hood Men in Tights, right?
I don't think that was Jerry
Mime
Lewis.
is a
No,
terrible
you're thinking
thing.
Richard Lewis.
Richard Lewis, yeah.
I mean, Jerry Lewis was a comedian,
Yeah.
but he was like of the Dean Martin.
Yeah.
A mime is a terrible thing to waste. But Saladin was on a downfall. Realistically, Richard could have taken Jerusalem because of all his counsel. Everybody pretty much lost faith with him because, let's be real, the minute Richard hit the beach, he whooped Saladin's ass almost in every battle right up to the gates of Jerusalem. King Richard just didn't take Jerusalem because he knew he couldn't hold it, and he refused to go into a city if he knew he couldn't hold it. The Templars, I presume, in this alternate universe, would have went back to Jerusalem. They probably would have taken everything back because, I mean,
they
after
were the
Saladin
most
died,
modern military force at the time. They would have been able to pull it off.
and not for nothing, after Saladin died, I mean, you've seen the Middle East kind of fracture. right? Egypt kind of went back to being Egypt. Middle East become Middle East. Turkey became Ottoman Empire, and the Seljuk Turks, and so it fractured shortly afterward, where that alliance of a one unified Islamic army kind of went away. So, I mean, I believe it would have taken somebody else after Saladin to reunify them and fight them off. But, I mean, we've seen in the First Crusade, I mean, they were all separated, and the Crusaders just picked them off. I think the Templars would have taken Jerusalem. Now the question is, you have the rise of the Ottoman Empire later.
I mean, that would have been
able to hold it.
That would have been an interesting fight, right? Like a reestablished Templar army versus the Ottoman Empire. They could have given them a run for their money.
Well, now, here's the thing. Right around this time is where you start to get the rise of gunpowder.
Yeah.
And cannon fire. Because, I mean, I think Constantinople was sacked in the 1400s.
Now it's Istanbul.
Now it's Istanbul, correct. Yeah, but Constantinople was that was a Christian stronghold.
You can't go back
to
Constantinople.
It's now Istanbul, but I mean, that's when they started using cannon fire at the walls, and they smashed the walls down and took over Constantinople, renamed it Istanbul, and it's been there ever since. But you can start to get the rise of gunpowder.
Military technology. I would think the Templar would be at the forefront.
Absolutely.
Of that.
They were the cutting edge,
Yeah.
even back in those days.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got a pretty good battle right there. I mean, Greek fire was a thing. They used that during the
that was a thing since like 10 AD or something, wasn't it?
So, I mean, I think that they would have found different ways. So, kind of brings me to my picture that I put on Instagram. I don't know. I just picture Templars wearing something along those lines. Maybe not.
Did you have AI create that or something?
I found it on Google Images.
Wow, yeah, that was pretty cool.
It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, that was a neat picture.
Do I think
one?
that armor's?
Yeah.
Do I think that armor's realistic? No, not at all.
Definitely not. But it looks cool.
It looks cool, but 5.56 round will punch clean through that plate,
Right.
like it was a hot knife through butter. You'd probably have.
But they took military technology seriously.
What's
an
he
order.
say, Joe?
Does Destraya sound familiar for that breed of horse? Destrier,
Destrier?
Destrier, perhaps, if it's French.
I know it was a
Belgian.
Belgian.
Up, and there's just one just called a Belgian draft horse.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's similar to a Clydesdale.
I think that's what it was.
Considered one of the strongest.
Yes,
of all the draft
I know
horses.
that they were the second largest, and they were one of the
A little
fastest.
stockier. I don't think they were quite as tall, but
Stockier, bigger, yeah.
Still scary as hell on the battlefield.
Inan,
Yeah.
Wow, love the new room. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is our new little humble abode.
Somebody's saying we have reverb.
No.
Oh, okay, good.
His name.
All right. I was like, oh god.
Inan
Start
Reverb.
Tweaking knobs over on the soundboard.
Yeah. So ultimately, let's fast forward this. It's modern day. It's today,
Okay.
2024. Where are we at?
Are we making an assumption here
Making an
that
assumption, where would the Templars be right now?
that they're still powerful to this day?
Still powerful to this day.
Okay.
Now, they don't necessarily have to keep the same name. They don't have to keep the same shape. What are they? Are they still a military order? Did they go back to their rules of piety and became just a monk order? Joe visited them in Massachusetts. Like, what? What are we thinking?
I see them almost as a, for lack of a better term, a new world order. Like they are a global, almost like a global government power, whatever, with strongholds all over the world.
Okay.
I think you take the idea of the Holy Roman Empire back in the day that was throughout Europe and even parts of, as far as that reached. Now it's that on a global scale. So I think they have their hands in every country and every government, almost like a United Federation of Planets.
So and still economically powerful, like still bankers and holding.
So you're going the Assassin's Creed Templars.
I think
they're Abstergo Corporation.
We on that bookcase over there, we've got about 25 books on like the Knights Templar, and none of them are talking about this. So this is good, new material here.
I mean, realistically speaking, I mean, Switzerland. I mean, there's stories of the Knights Templar helping the Swiss establish their banking and fighting off. I mean, there's a battle where I think it was the Holy Roman Empire went into, or it was either Holy Roman Empire or France went into Switzerland to take over Switzerland. And I mean, peasants with pitchforks whooped their ass.
Weren't the Swiss like, didn't they field like the military arm of the Vatican for a while?
Yeah, they still do.
The Swiss Guard.
Right.
Or those guys in the funny little outfit.
What the hell?
Yeah, I'm guessing they wouldn't be so funny looking nowadays.
Hellberg?
The what?
Nasty fucking weapon. It's basically an axe with a hook on the end. And they would
that
hook
thing,
the whip
yeah,
off
yeah.
the horse, and then lop your head off with the axe. And the other end of it had a
They still
spike.
have them.
Yeah, they still have them. Yeah. So you have the Swiss Guard. I mean, you could make it to Joe's point. You can make an argument that that's what they would do, what they would become. Oh my God, this thing keeps reclining on me. I'm gonna have to tape the bottom or something.
One global entity that controls the banks, controls the governments.
It's plausible.
That's where I.
So they went corporate. They put on business suits.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. Ken, where are you at?
That's a compelling idea. I like that idea. Like, I think that would make an awesome movie. I would choose to believe that, it's interesting to believe in that kind of thing. I think it would go the other way. I think they would, if there's nothing left to conquer, if there's no necessity to continue going on crusades, the Holy Land has been acquired, I would think that over time, by the time we hit modern times, things would calm down to the point where they were now just an order, like a monk order.
Okay.
Not a militaristic one. Would they still retain all of that power? Yeah, probably. But do they really need to have, like, a united military arm at that point if they're already, if they've already accomplished all of their goals?
Okay.
That's
Joe, read that
Unless
shit.
Unless the purpose was never again. Like,
yeah.
We will never let this happen again. And, But you might have different factions within. Like, you might have the more militaristic one. You might have the more orthodox monk lifestyle, just like you have any other
different areas of organization. Joe, read that shit.
Daniel Valdez says it could be like the Knights of Columbus, but without an affiliation to the Catholic Church.
There we go.
So I'm going to take it.
The Knights of
Those
Templar.
are not practical when you're
I'm going to
Marching in parades.
I'm going to take it to a different level. Have you guys ever heard of private military contractors? Mercenaries.
Yeah, like security
I'm going
forces
with.
and stuff.
Mercenary, let's look at Blackwater. I mean, it's no longer Blackwater. I think it's called Academy, but Blackwater was a private military contractor.
Yep.
They were hired by the U.S. government. And I mean, you have the Wagner group, and well, no longer, in Russia. There's other private military groups. That's where I think they go. I think they become mercenaries for hire, while still keeping what Joe's saying, still controlling things from behind the scenes. Become lobbyists, I guess you can say. If you're going to go with the assumption that the United States did beat, if the rest of history continued the way it was supposed to go, there's still a United States. England lost in the Revolutionary War. I still think you have a private military contractor company that basically owns a section of land, be it be Cyprus, Portugal, Scotland, Nova Scotia,
Texas.
Oak
Island, yeah.
Could you imagine if during the Alamo battle they're like, we hired some Templars, they're on their way here, and they
come rolling in on those Clydesdales, yeah.
Who is that freaking?
Now they have tanks.
Yeah, they would definitely have tanks.
I can't remember his damn name. The Mexican commander.
Santa Ana?
Oh, Santa Ana.
Santa Ana, yeah. He just like, the fuck's that dust cloud back there?
And it sounds like thunder with the hooves pounding.
It's supposed to rain? I hear thunder.
Are those freaking horses? Are they sending horses against us?
Pack my shit, we're leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck these Americans.
Make sure you grab the smokes. The really good smokes.
But you have to wonder, like, how the rest of history would play out. Could you imagine, let's go to World War II, Nazi Germany. Whew. You have
if
now
they were around as
Knights
private
Templar,
military contractors.
Paramilitary, you know what I mean? Where do they play into this? I mean...
I think they would, in my mind, they would be the ones to squash it. Like, you could almost have them as a, not necessarily a part of, but, you get the United Nations together and go, we have this real threat. This guy's trying to take over the world. What do we do? call in the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
I mean,
if they have bases of operation all over the world, then they're going to be wise to all of this stuff, you know, to the match striking in Germany. Whereas the Allies didn't know. I mean, there were no allies at that. If there were Templar strongholds all around Europe and all around the world, they would catch wind of this kind of stuff before it even starts. You
now
know what I mean?
one could make an argument though is that, well, Hitler was only killing Jews and they were a Christian order. Knights Templar, let's be real, during the Inquisitions, they were used to kill Jews.
Yeah, they were like not necessarily.
However, the Knights Templar also embraced other religions. I mean, there's stories about the Crusades where a Muslim man was at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which was controlled by the Templars, and he started getting heckled by Crusaders. And a bunch of Templars showed up and said, "Hey, fuck off, leave him alone."
Yeah.
And they protected him and allowed him to continue praying.
You spend enough time in another culture, eventually you're going to kind of like start taking elements of it. And
there's also a lot of their building, the buildings, the Gothic cathedrals and stuff. They came from Eastern. They didn't build Gothic cathedrals prior to the Crusades when they started bringing this knowledge back from the East. So, you could also make an argument that they didn't start to embrace other religions and other belief systems. There's no doubt that I don't think that they did the real devil worshipping Baphomet and all that stuff. But again, you can even make an argument about Baphomet, which translated into Hebrew and changed some things around. It was a coded word. Baphomet was a coded word, and it meant wisdom. So my point being is that they did embrace they started to embrace other beliefs and religions. So, somebody gets like, well, they might have sided with the Nazis. I don't know. When Nazi Germany invaded France, they might have been like, fuck them, let them take it, the bastards, because of what happened back in 1307. But I think once they started rolling with a real world conquering thing, I think the Templars would have absolutely joined in on the side of the Allies and done,
Yeah, I think as soon as they caught wind of genocide, the potential for genocide, I would think regardless of like any other political
they didn't
viewpoints,
really embrace Christianity.
That I think is the key point.
Yeah.
It wasn't, let's commit genocide against the Jewish people for
a religious reason.
It wasn't a religious war. It was, we just don't think these people we think these people are the scum of the earth, so we're going to eliminate them. But it wasn't because we're Christians and they killed Christ. There wasn't that dynamic. It was just pure evil.
Even to that point as well, the Nazis, the SS, they were trying to find they were founding their own religion.
Well, that's why.
Yeah, they were going on the hunt for all these artifacts and things of religious.
It's the swastika.
Good point. That was Japanese, and it was a sign of. It was Indian too, luck. I think, right? They used it for good luck.
Used throughout Asia.
If the Nazis are going for the Grail,
we're going after relics. And truth be told,
I don't know if the Templars would be cool with that.
Let's just. We're just saying that the Templars is theorized that they had the Ark of the Covenant, they had the Spear of Destiny, they had the Holy Grail. The Nazis would have came after the Templars for these things, and the minute the Nazis came after the Templars,
that'd be it.
Shit, it's on like Donkey Kong at that point.
I think that's where there's that separation of would they be on board with the Nazis or not. I think that would drive a wedge. You couldn't reconcile that.
Now, the other thing is, we also know that the Templars were vastly rich. They had all this treasure. I think they pour a lot of that money into R&D. And you might have technology that pops about years before it actually did.
You might also have
Templars on the moon.
I'm not saying on the moon, but
just think about philanthropic enterprises like in medical field and stuff like that. If getting back to that core of what they are with monks and that lifestyle, there might have been some advances from a medical standpoint.
I'm also thinking military. They were a military order. They're going to look for the best way to beat their enemy. You might have drone technology or Leonardo da Vinci.
Drone Clydesdale.
Giant robotic
But I'm saying you might have the
Clydesdales.
tank.
Controlled Clyde.
You might
Yeah.
have the tank pop up on the scene well before.
Right.
I mean,
No.
perfect example. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, he had schematics for helicopters. He had schematics for submarines. He had schematics for all kinds of shit. Tanks. Like,
Well, think of it from a standpoint.
they
of,
might have employed his ass and be like, hey, come here. I got something for you.
Let's take 6 of these
Well.
Belgian draft horses and put heavy armor on them,
And they
which
did.
they could handle. Is that far from a tank?
No,
You
it's
can
really
see
not.
how that.
I mean, it might have been a Fred Flintstone tank with all their feet out the bottom.
Well, but it might have been initially.
Initially,
Then
things would move pretty quickly if all that money still exists, if they're as rich as they were,
we're
powerful
gonna
as
take a
they
canopy,
were
put it
over
over
time.
6 horses, and they're
Yep.
just gonna plow through.
slam right
everybody.
through them, yeah.
And then you prove on that over 50 years, you have a tank.
Daniel
And then
Valdez.
eventually you got missiles, and then missiles lead to
Daniel Valdez says, what if
rockets.
they did go underground like...
The Kingsmen and fought against the Nazis that way. So the Kingsman movies, those are actually really
I
good
don't know if I've
movies.
seen him.
never saw.
I've
it.
never seen him.
Oh God, definitely see the first one. The second one's okay. I didn't see the third one, but in essence, it's the Knights of the Round Table go underground and continue. And
Oh, okay.
they become like almost like a James Bond secret agent slash.
I mean,
they're cool.
in my
movies,
personal
but, like,
opinion,
you know,
that's what the Templars did. I mean, I
That's what they did because they
there's
were
no proof
persecuted.
of it.
yeah.
I fully believe that Knights Templar of ancient times, the ones that got away, they blended into Freemasonry.
And
That's
it's,
my firm belief. We have
And they don't need to
so-
go underground if they're.
in the Kingsman movies, they went underground as tailors.
Oh, no kidding.
And then in the second one, when they came to the United States, they had a group called the Statesmen, and they were all master distillers.
Interesting.
So they're like each underground
From
group
Kentucky.
had yeah. So
Making
if you ever
this
see
moonshine out
if
here.
you ever see the bourbon Old Forester Statesman,
Yep.
that's from that movie. They made that for the movie. That's what the master distiller
Okay.
was making
No shit.
in that movie. So
That's kind of neat.
sidebar for you.
I don't know.
I really like bourbon.
I think that's what I think they did go underground in real life, but in an alternate universe, I could totally see them maintaining and being.
Yeah,
at least in my opinion,
there's no
being
reason for them to
military
not
group,
maintain a public presence.
But if you take they went underground. Let's say they take one of the common theories. They went underground and infiltrated like the Freemasons and societies like that. What if each Masonic lodge was like a military base or outpost?
Ooh.
Like
Yeah, like a
think about
commander,
the coverage.
like a commander.
Yes.
Yeah.
Think about the coverage you would have.
Then all these conspiracy theorists would actually be right because we.
They
Made
could
no
be
sense.
like you would have a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
There's at least one within 25
Every
miles
city.
of each other,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Sometimes
realistically,
multiple.
one can make an argument that that's why the Catholic Church hates us, is because they know that's where the Templars went.
Ooh.
Or at the very
Highly
least, they might not know,
speculative.
but that's what they fear.
Blaspheme! Blasphemer!
But then, you talked about the Knights Templar.
He's
and
not
the
talking.
Nazis. The Nazis went after the Freemasons too,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
they feared that power. They feared that level of organization. Imagine, Freemasons had a military that backed them up too. That's in essence what we're talking about. If
Yeah.
the Knights Templar were,
I mean,
yeah, that's why people hate us.
That's why
You
people
think
hate
about
us.
it, you're like, we'd be unstoppable.
oh yeah.
And God forbid you had the wrong person in charge, we'd be unstoppable.
I mean, think about it in terms of this, right? The Knights Templar had 20,000 men at arms
At that time. Which is
at
a
that
lot.
time. Now, take 1717 when Freemasonry got its rise. It was only a handful of them. There's like, what, 6 million of us around the world now?
Right now, 6 million.
5 or 6 million around
maybe.
the world.
Fact checking, hold on.
I mean, fact checking. Don't go on Snopes.
Depending on who you...
it's definitely not like
depending
the
on your
60s,
sources,
but-
The estimates are between 2 million to over 6 million worldwide.
Okay, 2 million
Call it-
is still a far cry from
Call it in the
1717.
middle. Let's call it 2.5 million.
2.5
3
million.
million.
3 million. I mean, you have
That's
an
a lot.
army
Right.
of 3
That's already
million.
embedded in different locations
already-
around the world. You want to talk about, and I hesitate to use this term, but just think of it from this standpoint, like a sleeper cell.
Yeah, but for good.
Right. That's why I hesitated to use that
Yeah,
term.
I mean,
A sleeper lodge.
It's funny too because you said sleeper
lodge.
cell. That's actually what Templars called themselves, because just like terrorists, each cell, each commandery was standalone. So no commandery knew where the other one was, so that if one was ever caught, they couldn't be tortured into telling them where the other guys were.
Yeah, I just hesitate to use that term because
I know.
say, "Oh, you're comparing the Knights Templar and Freemasonry to terrorists."
I know.
My brother Joe just admitted the Freemasons are terrorists.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be a TikTok video now.
Probably. It's gonna be like that Kurt Angle.
Your handle's
where
Fat
you're
Brad Pitt,
staring
right?
at the screen.
Fat Brad Pitt.
Fat Brad Pitt.
Find me on TikTok.
Yeah. So, you guys got anything else for this one? I think.
This was a fun one, man. I
We
like
could go
this.
so many directions.
Yeah.
We could talk about this all day long. But
We need some. We need some of our listeners that maybe are inclined to be writers. 5 pages or less. Submit your storyline for any of the timelines and scenarios that we presented.
And we'll act it out.
Like 'em? Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll act it out.
we need to get a
Those will be
Hallmark
our
movie.
skits.
Yeah.
I've got my monk outfit.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
Ken saw my monk outfit just the other night.
This is going to be
You
good.
know
I
what
got my
was thinking,
powdered
though?
wig. I'm ready
You know
to
what I was
go.
thinking though, like how do you make that into a comedy though? Like Joe's on a Clydesdale, no, Ken's on a Clydesdale because he's taller. You're on the freaking Belgian horse, and here I am coming in a little donkey with my legs still not touching.
No,
It's still like
you're on one
We'll
of the
find
little
a way.
stick ponies. That's what
Yep.
you're on.
This is bullshit.
We'll always find a way to make it
Or better
have some
yet, we
comedic
have a
value in
horse,
it.
And it's like we take it's like the horse costume, and we take it off, and his head's underneath. Why do I gotta be the horse?
I love it. Let's do it.
George.
Let's do it. Send in those scripts.
I think just by us trying to do it, even if we tried to do it seriously, that would be comedy.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
still turn
Oh,
into
yeah.
comedy.
Because there would be no outtakes. We'd
Yep.
film everything. I'd be up for that.
I'd be up for it too.
I can't wait. We know some cinematographers too, by the way, in this lodge. Yeah, we do. So we can make this happen.
I don't know if we make those kind of movies, so.
You're probably right, actually.
Oh, Joe will have to call back? God, who was the brother that was did the
Yes.
chip thing? He's an actual
He's an actual
he
makes
motion
movies.
pictures.
Yeah.
He goes to cons every year. Mark Lindsay? Mark something. I think it's Mark Lindsay.
The name
Forgive
rings
me,
a bell.
brother, if you're listening and I'm not quite remembering your
Butchering.
So how would we be? Would we? Where do you? Like, let's just go bananas here. Where would we be in this alternate universe?
It is Mark Lindsay.
Where
I
would
think
we
I
be?
would be on that more. You'd definitely be on the militaristic side.
Oh hell yeah!
I would be.
Would I be like
more
the Gerard de Ridderfort? What would I be?
I would be more like that monk orthodox piece. I think I would be like.
So you'd be the spiritual end of it.
I'd be
I
a
would
paper pusher.
Yeah.
Paper pushing.
Yeah.
You'd be the banker.
I'd be like I'd be admired in administravia for my
You'd be
entire
the banker. You'd be
existence.
the
I would be
patrol
one of the
bank.
bankers.
I'd be the
yeah.
military one. God wills it.
Yeah.
That'd be me.
I'd be the.
There's no one to fight. God wills it.
Yeah, just remember whose name is on those checks, who signs those checks. Just remember. Just remember. It's me.
Yeah.
I'd,
I could definitely.
I'd be like the monk that you'd have to come to and convince, like, hey, this is the right thing to do. Because I'd have the hearts and minds.
I'd
of
be in the
people.
confession box
Absolutely,
with Joe.
yeah.
Forgive me,
I'd
Father,
have
for
the
I've
hearts and
skinned.
minds of the people. And you're like, we need Joe's to sign off on
my
this,
God.
otherwise.
That would be a
This
funny
isn't
ass
gonna
skit. Use the Templar, freaking the priest, and me the soldier. Just going into the confession box. Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. Joe's like, George, what'd you do now?
But all you just get a Knights Templar Halloween costume.
Slaughtered a village of midgets.
We can make this happen.
Yeah, we absolutely
We
could.
could absolutely make this happen easily. Just go on like Party City and buy a Templar outfit. I'm sure they have a youth extra large.
I could sew a little Templar cross on one of my business suits. We could definitely make this happen.
All right.
This was fun.
Yeah, it's
Welcome
fun at
back.
my expense. Thank you, Joe.
It's
gotta happen.
I showed up here this
Yeah.
morning before we went on the air that it was going to be one of those days for you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. The bit. So we're setting up the lines and everything, and I'm freaking trying to fix the mic for Joe and everything, and he's like, with his fucking mouth open. I'm like, oh, will you knock it off? Like,
Oh, I missed you guys.
too early for your shit.
And then he couldn't fit the plug in, so I just told him
Yeah.
to add a little force.
Yes.
and spin it.
Couldn't get the goddamn wire into the back of the mic, and that turned into a thing. So, anyway,
I
what do you
can
say?
turn
What do you
anything
brothers
into
say?
anything.
Ready to get out of here?
Yeah, I think we never toasted our
Oh!
our
All right.
reviewers.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. You really
Oh, I have to do it? Yeah. All right. It's been a while since we've done this. Hopefully I can remember. Brethren, right hand to arms.
arms.
Ready.
Ready.
Aim.
Aim.
Fire good fire, fire all. Together, brothers. Vivat, vivat, vivat.
Yeah, I fucked it up.
Yeah, you see?
It's the weak link this time.
Oh, it's been a while.
That's why you're the horse.
That's why you're going to be the horse.
Actually, no, it's even better than that.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
He could be the guy with the little pan and the broom coming up behind the horse.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So we'll need a real
That's
horse.
not what I
then.
thought. I thought you were going Monty Python with the fucking two sides of the freaking coconut.
No, I'm thinking like.
Yeah, we're gonna be more
like
sophisticated
As we sign
than
off,
that.
it's the end, and then he's coming along with the
Yep.
thing to clean up after the horse.
And they poop a lot, too, so get ready.
For the Freemasons podcast, I am Right Worship Brother George Marjorie signing off.
Worshipful Brother Joe signing off.
And Wishful Brother Ken signing off.
Seat change next time. Have a good night,
Yeah,
everyone.
for sure. Thanks, guys.